Good evening and welcome to the February 23rd Penfield Town Board Work Session. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to note for the record that all town board members are present. Additionally, we have our deputy town clerk and Director of Developmental Services, Carrie Ivers, and Director of Public Works, Eric Tate. So before you have the minutes of February 9th, 2022. Anyone have any concerns or anything? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Coles, second by Councilperson Lee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Great. We have no public hearings this evening, nor do we have any guests that are here to present. So we'll move right into our action items. The first one is request for a second curb cut at 1954 Dublin Road. And Eric, I'm hoping that you can give us some background because we just did receive the information this evening. So thank you for your help.
Yep, certainly will do, and actually have the owner of the property here with us as well.
Oh, you're very welcome to come up. I'm very sorry. You're very welcome. And just could you state your name and address for the record? And if you feel comfortable wearing your mask, you can, or you can keep it up.
I'll just keep it on.
Okay.
I don't know if this is on or not, but.
Should be.
Okay. So my name is Matthew Capuano. I own 1954 Dublin Road. It's a parcel that historically was a celery farm, also spinach as well. And it's 59 acres. And we have one access to the property, which is a shared driveway with the neighbor to the north, 1944 Dublin Road. And we're looking to gain access to our southern finger of the property, which has about 250 feet of frontage, I believe, somewhere around there. And the purpose of that is to access the field, the southern field that is just east of that frontage. Yeah.
Okay. And this is, your home is not on that, correct, or it is?
This is my kind of work farm property. So my home is just adjacent to that, actually, in 1960 Dublin Road.
And what are you looking to farm on that property?
We did pumpkins last year, which did really well. And we'll probably be doing that, maybe a different variety this year of pumpkins.
Could you tell us a little bit about the kinds of things kinds of machines you'd like to put in there with the second curb cut, like what farm equipment, things like that? Yeah,
so I don't want to say it's a rarity. I do during the season, during sort of the planting and harvesting, I may leave a tractor there once in a while. There's a tree line, and there are neighbors across, and I'm sort of cognizant of that. I try to keep it behind the tree line. So other than that, I do have another machine that is like a skid steer type of thing, but I don't really like to bring that out. I keep that to the back, so you can see the 1954 actual building is toward the center of that screen, and that's where I keep the machines primarily, off the road.
Okay.
I don't know how old that is. I cleaned it up a lot.
Are there any questions from the town board? No? Bob or Debbie?
There's a garage up towards Dublin. That's not yours as you come down the driveway on the left, if you're coming in the current access point?
That barn there
Barn, yeah.
is not mine, no.
So
It's
you
the neighbor.
drive, you have to drive past that currently to get back to your property?
Correct. And I mean, I love my neighbor. He's a great guy. Sometimes we have, clearance issues with getting trucks by and whatnot, but, that's sort of the main vein for that property back there. If we're going to be utilizing, and really it's more for the public, because if I come off of the property onto the road, there's mud and dirt and stuff.
Sure.
So I would find it probably more for the community than even for me, but it will be also nice to be able to bring stuff directly in there in a car or a truck or something that is not, I broke a CV joint trying to get back there. It's a little rocky.
Yeah.
So,
Is the proposed access going to be paved, gravel, or what's your plan?
gravel.
And then how frequently would you say that this would be used? Is it going to be used all the time? Is it, once or twice a day?
If it's once or twice a day, it's a lot. And it's going to be seasonal. I doubt that it's going to be utilized that much during the winter, other than to maybe clear it off, just so there is access. But yeah, it's not going to be a thoroughfare by any means, and I don't really have any plans to do anything that would make it a thoroughfare on that parcel.
You just want to access the back of your property in a reasonable manner?
Yeah, pretty much.
Can you just show us, maybe, Carrie, on that map, exactly where the curb cut is going to go, as you're showing that right now? Right.
Sure. I think my wife, she's a civil engineer, she sent a drawing, but there's another, yeah, that's it.
So it's kind of up to the, south of that. There's two properties that Matt's property actually kind of curls around and borders on, both on the north and the south. Where he's looking to put that curb cut in would be to that south of the southernmost property. And I believe there's a kind of a tree-lined hedgerow there currently.
So there's a line of trees that goes parallel with the road.
Okay.
So it's most dense further to the south. So to disrupt the least, I would stay furthest to the north.
So none of those neighbors will be able to see that, will really be able to see your curb cut?
I don't quite understand. So, I mean, if you're on the road, you're going to
see it?
Yeah, I mean,
It means no different than a regular
Rather than
driveway.
curb cut, right.
You'll see it.
I guess I meant none of those neighbors are not going to obstruct them when they are going out of their driveway.
No, there's only the neighbor to the, so I own the property, the the bottom property, I own that.
Okay.
And then the lady, Debbie, owns to the north of me. And that is, so my property, I believe, is 100 feet wide, and hers may be 200 feet wide at the road. So, and then to the south, there's nobody, and then there's one house that has a driveway that was relocated recently, actually, from the north aspect of the property further away from me to the south. So there's probably nobody other than Debbie turning on that side of the road within, I'd say, ballpark 300, 400 feet.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I think, Matt did a great job kind of explaining some of the history of the property. In addition to what he's explained, there are portions of the property do have wetlands on them. I know Matt and his wife have been working with the USDA to get an exemption for what they want to do and specifically where that can be placed on the property. Based on that, and one of the other pictures that Carrie had pulled up kind of shows a field with a box indicating that this is the location kind of for where they would be able to, do what they want and have the driveway to come in to access that. So in addition to, they do have the one driveway coming in for the existing structure, they are limited that you can't just put driveways and roads all throughout because of the wetlands. So
Right.
while it's both the convenience being as close to Dublin Road and being able to have kind of a short secondary curb cut to get into the property. He's also constrained and doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility to just put it anywhere on the property.
Right, understood. Okay, so it sounds like you're trying to get the appropriate permits and things to do that. My understanding is, too, that there doesn't have to be a public hearing for this.
Correct.
Okay, and it could just be a general agreement
So
that we're okay with the curb cut, if we are.
Yep, so the request that Matt is more or less looking for to do this, because the work and the curb cut would be within the town's highway right-of-way, they would need to fill out a highway right-of-way work permit to do that work. That's something that myself and our highway department reviews. For me to even look at that, the stance that we've kind of taken in the past is that anything more than one curb cut for a residential property comes to the town board to see if it's even worth considering, and if you're agreeable to that, then Matt can fill out the paperwork. I'll take a look, review, make sure if driveway culverts are, need to be included, that they're sized appropriately, and that we're, accepting of what he's proposing.
Okay. I don't want to speak just for myself, so I do want to make sure that this is okay with the town board. It certainly makes sense. I can understand why you would want this second access. Is everyone else in agreement?
Well, certainly, and Eric would come back to us if there was any kind of issues. And so
Okay.
it's just a step forward.
Okay. I don't think we need a formal vote for this. I think we can just tell you that we want to move forward, but you tell me if you would prefer that I do a vote.
Whatever you guys are most comfortable with.
Okay. Is everyone in favor?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great.
Aye. Yeah, so all in favor.
I'll email you the right-of-way permit and be in touch with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
And
Appreciate
thank you
it.
very much. I know you'll continue to work with Eric.
Will do. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Moving on to action item B, follow-up on 1880 Blossom Road.
Yes, this is, as you all remember, we had the public hearing last week, and so then I just wanted to make sure that we kept this on the agenda for work session so that if the town board wanted to move forward with a resolution to approve the special permit, that we would have this time to discuss that.
Carrie, were there any other pieces of information that came in since the public hearing?
No, we haven't received any additional communication beside the comments that were made during the public hearing. And so we do have the Bonner County review for the 239M referral has been received. So we've got everything in place in order to move forward in terms of rendering a decision.
Okay. Is there any discussion then? Because otherwise, I think we can actually vote to set a resolution to render a decision, right?
If the board's in,
I would move that we schedule a public hearing
We did
as a follow-up to the public hearing with no concerns, and all the information has been provided that we were looking for, that we do a resolution next week to approve this rising storm at
the mill.
the mill, moving forward into the Daisy Flower Mill location.
Can I ask one question, Carrie?
Sure.
We did bring up the fact about conditions, some conditions about that as far as music, outdoor
Yeah, so-
dining, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so what I was going to recommend is that in the list of conditions that we provide with special permits, they vary a little bit, but there's some general themes. One of them is acknowledging and conforming with all applicable town codes, state regulations, anything along those lines. So I would make sure that that was included as a condition, and maybe specify the noise ordinance so that there's very clear understanding. And I do know
The music, we only allow 3 permits during the
I wanted to check the code a little bit more closely, so
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah, make sure
misquoting it.
that's- Yeah.
Make sure that they're aware of that.
Right.
Because he still wants, I'm sure, hopefully they still want to proceed, but we want to make sure he's aware of.
Yeah, and I
That could be
think
another
my understanding in talking with the applicant, is that they would conform with whatever the requirements were. I will say that one of the other conditions on the resolution would be, because of its location, to come back for signage approval, both to the Historic Preservation Board and then to the Town Board.
I was just
for
going
a
to say,
final.
so thank you.
Yeah, so that's going to be a condition. They're not ready yet with that. I think they really need this condition, this special permit, in order to even move forward with renovations that are required. As you recall, during the public hearing, they talked about probably 6 to 8 months worth of renovation just to get the equipment in and get themselves set up. So there's plenty of time to navigate the signage approval that corresponds to this project.
Great. Any other comments from the board?
Is there a second?
I do have a motion from Councilperson Cole to prepare a resolution rendering an approval of this.
I'll second that.
And a second from Councilperson Ockenden. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right. My husband Chuck will be very pleased with my performance in navigating this application.
I know we've made a lot of people happy this evening.
Do you want me to move on to, oh, I'm sorry.
Yep,
I'm
go
jumping
right ahead.
All
You're
right,
still
so
up.
I'm sorry. So the next one is, just to follow up, we had that, the public information session related to the incentive zoning request or consideration with the ancillary parking. The next step would really be to, what's required by town code, is to set a public hearing. And so if this board was amenable to that, I would request the ability to prepare that resolution to set that public hearing. We would set it out in such time so that we could have the appropriate Monroe County review as needed. So we'd be looking for it to be at least 30 days from next week's legislative meeting. But we could coordinate that and set it for a time that makes sense so that we're not overloading any one of the meetings with too many public hearings.
I just want to be sure that at that public hearing, we're also in agreement with how that incentive zoning will be structured.
Yes, so that's actually something that the engineering department has been going to be working on.
Okay.
And that will clearly communicate that with the applicant so there's no surprises.
And also the public, so
Yes.
that they're aware of
How that's being formulated, and that's something that's in progress right now. That's the other reason for setting the public hearing date out a period of time that allow us to make sure we have all documentation that's needed for consideration. And just for clarity, in the incentive zoning code regulations, Planning Board also potentially plays a role here as well. However, from an investment standpoint, it makes more sense to have the public hearing at the town board level, because your purview is, going to be on all the details, but we're not at full engineering drawings for them to proceed to full design.
Okay. I guess I would prefer it's here too because of the incentive zoning.
Yeah, so they have the, let me maybe not explain that very well. The level of drawing they need to actually design it and build it is different than the level of design that they need to show you what they plan on building.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So you're going to see because the package to prepare that is a pretty expensive undertaking. And if they don't know if the incentive zoning is permitted or not permitted, trying to have a little bit of economy of investment in, so they'll have a detailed plan so you know exactly what you're getting, and there's no bait and switch or
Understood.
surprises. But I think, and then there'll also be planning board input as well to the town board per the code. I'm going to work with, and I want to get some clarity on from our town attorney as to how that process needs to work.
I don't see why the planning board would be involved.
I was gonna say,
It's the sales landing.
I was just reviewing the code, how it's written, and it may be also for projects that start with the planning board, have planning board involvement. This one would not be.
No, it never did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for this specific zone,
Yep.
it actually stays at the town board
Yeah.
level.
That LaSalle's landing, LaSalle zone.
Right.
It's different than the.
Right.
Okay, we'll verify for sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wanted to, and I apologize, this is my first incentive zoning application, so if I'm fumbling along the way, I will beg this board and our community's forgiveness for that.
But we have these different districts, too.
Yes.
Districts
Right.
that lay over the zoning. So
Yeah, thank you.
It's totally fine. I think
Okay.
the way it's scheduled and the way you're moving forward, So that's fine, and I know you'll talk with our town attorney.
Absolutely, that's my conversation scheduled for tomorrow.
So, just to be clear, we need to set a public hearing.
Yep.
And at that point, I also make sure that we have all the pieces of the incentive zoning plan in place so that
Yes.
we are alerting the public to that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
But when you talk about the drawings, we don't need to have everything like the expensive engineering drawings. We just have to have an idea, right?
Well, you have to have, I think, a solid development plan so you know exactly what the build-out looks like. And I think more importantly, to the supervisor's point, the sort of the formula by which the incentive zoning fee would be calculated. And that's really an important part.
But it's also adding into what we've already approved with Dr. Howlett, because he's doing.
That's my understanding, is that it's
So it's like an additional layer.
that there's already been identified a public improvement that's needed with respect to the transportation system, AKA Empire Blvd improvements that are required to support these developments. And so that incentive zoning would be driven toward that improvement.
Right. I don't think we've ever seen anything, developed engineering plans specifically to it yet. It's
Oh.
been a conversation, but it hasn't been laid out.
Forgive me, I
It's
can
just
pull
been
that
a
up.
rendering.
Yes.
Honestly, it's never gotten.
I just
more
want it to
than
be held up.
Right.
You know, to your point, we want to have some idea what it's all planned, but,
Right.
you know, to have them spend thousands of dollars, you know, if it's still
Right.
being laid out, you know what I'm saying?
I think what we have, the rendering in front of us is enough to go on.
And I'm just going to open it up so that anybody, we can all be, sorry, I'm having some technical challenges here, but we did look at this.
Right. Right, and that gives all of us, including the public, an idea of the project.
Yes.
So this is fine.
Yeah, so this is the proposed design. And then if there's any other details, I will work with the applicant and their agent to ensure that this board has all information needed.
Okay. All right, so may I have a motion then to set a public hearing for this project? So 41 Woodhaven Drive.
So based on the director's recommendation, I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilperson Lee and a second from Councilperson Cole. Is the board all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so we'll be setting a public hearing, right, not less than 30 days from now. Thank you. All right, moving on to preservation of planning and zoning records project. Now, I know our town clerk couldn't be here this evening. Would our deputy town clerk like to speak to this at all?
Sure. We originally had done a preservation project back in 2016.
I think you're going to want to speak up a little bit. Thanks, Sue.
Sure. We did a preservation project back in 2016 that went out for bid, and CoFile was the only one who had presented. And so this project is to do some preservation of the zoning and planning minute books that are in the vault, some very old, I believe they begin in 1940s. And so again, CoFile came back with a
Right.
quote and no others. I think there were 3 other companies that requested the packet, but didn't
Right.
present a bid.
So I had a conversation with the town clerk about the fact that CoFile seems to be the only company that will accept a project of this size.
And that's what it looks like.
And she was pretty sure that they were probably going to be the only ones that responded. But I do want to make sure that the board has no other questions about this.
So I believe it is over 3 or 4 year period.
Right.
Each year, the budget was like $20,000 per year. And they were able to put something together to stay within that budget and guarantee the price over the 4 years.
Right. Okay. And then just for the public, just so if you're wondering, well, why can't we just scan these up and they can be digital? New York State does require a hard copy, so we are forced to conserve the paper documents that we have.
Right. And some of them are so fragile that I don't think they could even withstand a scan. So,
No, I know, we're down
and
to,
they did a great job with the project that we had done with them before. It's done a great job.
I know Amy was very happy, so, okay. So then I would like to accept a motion then to set a resolution accepting this proposal.
I'll make a motion that we accept the one bid we received from Cofile to go ahead with this project.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilperson Draw, a second by Councilperson Ockenden. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so Amy will prepare a
Thank you.
resolution for that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, we have no informational items, no old or new business. I believe that our next work session will be Wednesday, March 9th, 2022. Do we have any new business? All right, seeing none, then we'll declare this meeting adjourned at 7:26 PM.